Welcome to all. My name is K. Ram Mohan Rao, an assistant professor working in IT department, belongs to Shashi Institute of Technology and Engineering. Here I am going to discuss about R programming. So our session consists of 5 modules. So I will explain what are the modules we are going to discuss in this R programming in the next video. But here I am giving the brief description about what is an R programming and why we need to study R programming. So this kind of things will be discussed in the introduction of R programming. This is our first session. So what are the things we are going to see in our first session is what is an R programming, how R programming will works, who will works on R programming, features of R programming, applications of R programming, and then we'll get a conclusion over how to use an R. So what is an R programming? So whether it is R programming is a programming language or it is any tool or it is any framework. So these are the things we will get, these are the questions we will get once we see R programming. So basically R programming, R is a programming language as well as it is a software environment, so that we can work, if we are working on, if we want to use any particular application by using the tool, we can use R. Or if we suppose wanted to develop any particular application, then we can use R as a programming language. So it's up to the user whether you want to use as a programming language or whether you want to use it as a tool. That's your wish. It can be served as both as a programming language as well as tool, and it can also available as a framework. Framework is nothing but it allows us to do something. It allows us to create an environment to work something. For example, I want to develop an application. If I want to develop that application, I supposed to have the framework first I supposed to have the environment. So that environment will be created by R also. So these are the various phases of this R programming. So see here, R is a programming language and software environment for statistical computing and graphics. So what is statistical computing? What is scientific computing? So statistical computing is nothing but R is widely used as the statistical analysis purpose. For example, before introducing the R programming, we have S programming language also. So S programming language is used to perform some analysis on the given data. So that SR programming language will give some graphs, and there are some visualization techniques. So by using those visualization techniques, it will analyze whatever the data which are provided by the user. So for that advanced version, Mr. Robert and Rohan Ivanka, these two gentlemen are introduced this R programming language. It can perform both statistical computing and scientific computing also, but it can't serve more scientific applications that are provided by the Python programming, which is similar programming language like R. So it can serve both statistical and scientific computing, but mostly we will mostly use this R programming for statistical computing. So environment that is used by the statisticians, data scientists and researchers in variety of fields. So how the statisticians will use, how the data scientists will use, and how the researchers will use, we'll discuss later on in the topics of how R will work. So these are some introduction points. R is an open source language. So open source language is nothing but, so we can easily download the R from the internet. So we have a R consortium, www.r.org. So we have that applications are developed by the R. So those applications are available in this consortium. Again I am repeating this, www.r.org. So this is the consortium of R programming. From there we can easily download the R softwares. So R is freely available to the public. You can make the improvements on the language and access hundreds of useful packages created by others for free. So if suppose I am downloaded, there are many other programming, there are many other tools that can be easily downloaded, but here the thing is, once if you make any changes, if you make any further development on that R, you can change your developments in the R consortium. So for example, I have downloaded the R from the R consortium and I have made some changes to it, and I have made some development on it. If I wanted to save those changes on the R, it will be accepted by the www.r.org. This R consortium will accept those changes and they will represent the changes in the R consortium. And second one, domain specific language. So R is a domain specific language and it lies in statistical and data analysis. Strong graphical capabilities. Basically we used to call R is a ocean of packages. R, it contains a lot of new packages which are developed by the R community. As previously discussed, or whatever the packages that are invented or whatever the developments we have made, which will be accepted by the R consortium, right? So the R is a full of ocean of packages. Every time new packages will be developed and this will make available to the users. So we have strong graphical capabilities. In order to these all strong graphical capabilities comes from the plot family packages. So there is a plot family. So in that plot there are n number of packages and functions. Those are used to display they are used to develop the different specials of graphs. So by using plot family, this R will have the strong capabilities. And R is interpreted language. So interpreted language. So what is an interpreted language? In the sense, first we have an idea about Python. Python is also called as interpreted programming language. Why? So whenever, for example, if you work on C or Java, in C first we need to compile. So whenever we have written the code, first we have to write the code, then after we have to save it, then after we have to compile it. If there are no errors in it, then we will run the code what we have written. Yes, the same method is also followed in the Java also. But when it comes to our programming language, it is an interpreted, so that we need not to compile the code what we have written. Instead of compiling, we can directly check, we can directly execute the instruction whatever we have written. So once the instruction has been written, you can execute it. That's what it is called, interpreted programming language. So interpreted programming language in the sense, we need not to compile the code again. So without compilation, we are able to execute our code. We are making ready to test our code. So such kind of feature is called as interpreted feature. So that interpreted feature is available with R programming. That's why we used to call it as an interpreted programming language. So it is also just like Python. So integration with other technologies. Integration is nothing but, so if suppose if I am working on C, I cannot merge with the object oriented programming languages like C++ or Java. It won't accept. But when it comes to programming languages like Python or R programming, they can be integrated with the other programming languages like C++, Python, Net. I mean, there are so many packages that can be R programming can taken from the Python, as well as Python can also fetch the different functions like plot functions from R programming. So basically Python is not a strong they don't have strong packages for data analysis or statistical analysis. So in order to perform those statistical analysis, it will fetch the packages from R. As well as Python R programming language, it doesn't have the capabilities of developing the web applications like Python. So in order to do that, packages will be taken out from the Python. So these programming languages, either Python or R programming, they can integrate it with the other programming languages. So this is all about R. So how to run R programming? How R programming will works. So as we discussed, it is a programming language, it is a framework, it is a tool. So these are the things we have discussed in the introduction of R. Now we will see how R programming works. So R programming works by using a command line interpreter to execute R code. So we know that it is in Python or R. So they need a command line interpreter. I mean, either you can use it as a, you can write the code in a separate file and it has to be executed by the R and R compiler. Okay, these are the things that can be worked in the console. So all these are the different possible ways, but the first thing we'll prefer is we will execute by this R programming through command line interpreter. So when you type R code into the interpreter, it is parsed and executed line by line. So we already discussed, interpreter is nothing but whenever you have written instruction, that will be executed there itself. So R is also an interpreter, so that it is parsed and executed line by line. So the interpreter then prints the output of the code to the console. So once it will be written and you have pressed the enter, it means that the line will be executed, and based upon the instruction we have written, the output will be displayed on the console. And R code is typically organized into the functions. R programming is called as everything in R will be considered as functions, and functions are called as first class objects. So R code will be treated, so R code will be typically organized into functions. It will be treated the code into the functions. So functions are nothing but blocks of the code that can be reused multiple times. So functions are nothing but functions are a set of block of statements. That block of statements will take the inputs from the user and they will operate it and returns the result. So this whatever the instructions that are written, those are reusable. So once the instruction has been done, once the instruction has been written, that can be used multiple times. The code will be reused. That is the use of functions. And whatever the program, whatever the big program we are having, if we are using the functions, the big program can be divided into a number of modules, and each module will have a different function. These functions will work as autonomous modules. So this makes R code very modular and easy to maintain. For example, if I am using the function, if I am having a big program and there is a small error in that program, then that particular module will only be maintained, that particular module will only be fixed. So instead of changing the entire program, if you are modifying the small program, will enough. So that is the use of functions. That functions concept will comes with the R programming. And R also has a large and comprehensive library of statistical functions. We already discussed R is the first and foremost developed for the statistical analysis purpose. Later on it will be morely used on the visualization wise, but for the intention of Robert and Rohan Evanka, they introduced this R programming for statistical computing and statistical analysis. So further, these functions can be used to perform a wide variety of statistical tasks such as data cleaning. So what is data cleaning? Is nothing but whenever we are having the data, it contains multiple tables. If there is any row is missing any data, then that row will be terminated from the table. For example, if I am having a table which contains 5 rows and 5 columns, if in the fourth column, fourth row, if it missing some value, so 4, 4 is the matrix value. If that row, that field is missing any data, then the particular row will be terminated from the table, and it will have the 5 columns and 4 rows. So the data has been cleaned. So such kind of things will defaultly be performed by the R programming. That will be called as data cleaning, exploratory data analysis, statistical model, and machine learning. So statistical modeling is nothing but once we have given the data to the R, how R will fetch the data, in the sense data can be fetched only through the .xls format. Whereas Python can fetch the data through Word or through Excel or even from the web server. But when it comes to R programming can only fetch the data in the .xls format. So once it fetch the data and it given to the R, so whatever the plot functions we apply, based on that the graphs will be developed. So this kind of statistical modeling can be performed with the R. And machine learning techniques, in the sense, in order to, by the given data, it will analyze the data based upon the previous approach. For example, whenever we have seen, we use the Facebook. In Facebook we used to get the lot of data will be feed on our news feed. So how it will post all this data into the wall, in the sense, based upon the our behavior, whatever the things, pages we are liked, or whatever the pages which are liked by our friends or family. So by considering all this, it will perform some behavioral analysis and will take the data which it will post the data which we might like. So this kind of machine learning tasks will also performed by R. And R is a very powerful tool for data analysis, and it is free and open source software environment that is used by the large and active community of users. So we discussed that R will have a vast community. Vast community in the sense, there are a lot of people, they are using R, they involved with R. So we can say that this R is a powerful tool for data analysis. So who will works on R programming? So far we discussed about the introduction of R, what are the how we can download, how can we take the R, this kind of things will be discussed. Now we will discuss who works on R, whether it is a statisticians, how they will work. If you are a data scientist, how they will use R. If you are a researcher, how you will use R. If you are a software developer, how you are going to use. So there are a lot of people, they are working with R. So statisticians are the original developers of R. As we discussed from the scratch, we are saying this, Robert and Ehanka, they are the statisticians, and they developed this R for the statistical tasks only. So statisticians are the original developers of R. So who developed the R? Those are the statisticians, and they continue to be active in the R community. They use R to develop the statistical models and conduct statistical analysis and teach statistics. And data scientists will use R to analyze the data and build predictive models and visualize the data. So if you are the data scientist, they use the R to visualize the data and to analyze the data and build predictive analysis of the text. For example, in healthcare, based upon our previous records, they can identify based upon the symptoms or based upon the previous medicines, they can predict what the medicine that has to be described for the patient. So all this predictive analysis can be done by these data scientists and researchers. So researchers use R to analyze data from their research. So we used to basically manually, we studied the literature survey. We will see 3-4 literature surveys, and we will come up with some different idea. So researchers, they will use this R in order to analyze the data more effectively. They will use R. And software developers, so software developers use R to develop statistical softwares, data visualization tools and other applications, and they work in different fields like finance and education, healthcare. So there are different applications will be developed in those fields by the R. So now up to now we have seen what is an R, how R will works, who use the R. Now we are going to see what are the features of R programming. There are a number of features for R programming. Some of we have given free installation, as we already discussed. R is a open source software, we can freely download this. And hottest trend, So what is hottest trend in the sense? Present the hottest trending techniques in the market is machine learning and deep learning. These are the hottest trending topics. So actually these are integrated with, or most of these applications were developed, or somehow they were somehow integrated with the R programming, whether it is a machine learning or it is a deep learning. So all these are, whether it is in web applications, so whatever, these are somehow integrated or integrated or mixed with this R programming. So whatever the hottest technologies you will see, those are developed by the with the help of R programming only. That's why we can say R is hottest trending technology, and integrated with other programming languages. R can integrated with other programming languages like C, C++, Python, etc. and latest cutting edge technology. So for example, for whatever the applications nowadays which are done by the artificial intelligence, so most of the applications which are developed by the R programming only. So as per statistics, more than 78% of applications were developed by the R packages or with the introduction of R. So latest cutting edge technology like artificial intelligence or machine learning, those are using the R programming more frequently. And platform independent. For example, if we see C, it can be worked only in the C compilers or C environment. When it comes to Java, it will be work in Sun environment or Java environment. But when it comes to programming languages like Python or R programming, they can be developed. Once you have written the code need not to be changed. So once we executed the code, that code will be executed anywhere, whether it is in Linux or whether it is in some other platform like Red Hat or whatever, Linux, Unix, so Mac OS. So it will be executed in different platforms without changing the any instruction of the code. So it can be merged with, it can be executed anywhere in other programming languages. So the other features are a large and comprehensive library of statistical functions. So we have a comprehensive arch network, CRAN. This comprehensive archive network will consist of lack of packages. So in previous minutes we have discussed that whatever the new application and new development that will be available in the R consortium, even some of the packages which are not available in the R consortium, those packages will also available in the CRAN. CRAN is nothing but comprehensive archive network. So this comprehensive archive network will consist of comprehensive library of statistical functions, a powerful graphics engine. So we discussed it can be used plot functions, it can use mat packages. By using all these, it will possess a high end of graphical capabilities, a flexible and easy to use programming language. Whenever we see the programming, it is like mixture of both object oriented programming and C programming. Now in Java programming we'll have the braces, when it comes to Python we'll have the indentation. So when it comes to R, it is the mixture of both object oriented and general purpose programming language. And most of will have structure like both object oriented and general purpose. So we will have the braces and we will have the functions like Python, we have the braces structure like Java or C. So it will be more flexible and easy to use, and we will use the high level English so that we can easily understand the whatever the instructions we have written. A large and active community of users and developers. When it comes to the community purpose, the first highest community language will be the C+, the second one will be the Python, and the next third one will be the R programming. So the R programming will consist of a vast community. So next we will see what are the applications of R. So we already discussed who works on R. Now we will see what are the applications. So here I have mentioned very few only, but we have a lot of applications. So here I am mentioning social media. So social media, here it will works in behavior analysis view and sentiment analysis. So the behavior analysis will discuss, so it will study what are the things we have studied or what are the things we have liked. So based upon that, it can assume or it can estimate the behavior or the attitude of that particular user. And when it comes to sentiment analysis, the sentiment analysis will predict what next activity I am going to do. So in order to motivate, I am saying this in the social media and the perception of humans. So sentiment analysis, it will study, so it studies our mood and it will predict what we are going to do the next. So these are the things, these are the different applications we are using in social media. When it comes to IT, we are using these applications of IT in business intelligence and software development. So the business intelligence will get like what are the new projects are developing and how they can be reached to the user. Once we develop the Flask version of the software, then we need to give it to the give it to the users. So once they are executing this, they can identify whether the users are liking this product or whether the users are like these applications. So that based upon the feedback they are getting or based upon the use of that application, they can plan deliver the next version of that product. And software development, as we discussed, there are so many statistical predictive analysis models. They are developed by the user. They can be used in both in healthcare and education, in finance field. So there are so many applications that are developed by the software team, so software developers. When it comes to the finance, stock market modeling and fraud detection. So stock market in stock marketing and identifying the frauds that can be happened, those things can be done with the help of our applications in the finance. When it comes to governmental uses for weather forecasting and by keeping the record, so in these two applications we are using the R. So except this, we already discussed data cleaning and data wrangling. So data cleaning is nothing but identifying the unused fields in the data table and it can be removed. And data wrangling, it will discuss, it will keep the, instead of keeping the null or instead of keeping the data, it can be look over the data and will keep some data into it and it will remodify the data. Whatever the anomalies we are having in the data that can be fetched out of the table can be done by this data wrangling. And exploratory data analysis, so it will exploit the data, it will take out the data and it will accept, and as we discussed, the data can be exploited only through the .xls format. And statistical modeling, machine learning and visualizations, these are the different applications we have seen so far. So at conclusion, R is a powerful and versatile tool for data analysis, and it is free and open source software environment that is used by a large and active community of users. So R is just like another programming language, but it can be morely useful for statistical computing. So we can also performing scientific computing. Why? Because we are saying that R is a comprehensive programming language. So comprehensive programming language in the sense it can provide a number of packages and makes to perform all kind of activities, but R is preferred for statistical computing, not for scientific computing and not for developing the web applications. It can do, but it is not best at for web applications. It is for statistical computing. It consists of lot of packages for statistical analysis, and most of the applications were developed by the artificial intelligence and machine learning can be developed with this help of R. So R is a powerful and versatile tool for data analysis. This is about the introduction of R programming. Thank you.